You are listening to the 5 Squared Podcast, the podcast where we bring you tips for your business and your life. Our goal is to leave you smarter with ideas, wisdom, tools, and entertained. The 5 Squared Podcast is produced weekly for your enrichment. Come back often and feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow me on Twitter at 5 Squared and Facebook. All the links are in the show notes. Now let's get started with your host, business consultant, executive coach, and founder of 5 Squared, Tim Fives.
All right, welcome back to the 5 Squared Podcast with your host, Tim Fives, and my good friend, partner, associate, Andrew Gaiennie. Did I say that right?
Nailed it.
Pinned it. Yeah,
that
look at
is
that.
star-worthy.
Yeah,
no one ever gets the name
I get
right.
it. Yeah, I had been practicing that all morning.
You know, my last company was titled specifically to get around the particular thing that no one can say my last name. We just called it That Email Marketing Guy because no one could remember the name. So
it's good to be back sitting in the podcast booth and to just give us a little bit of your background, Andrew.
Well, thank you, Tim. Thank you. So I moved up here to lovely York, Pennsylvania, or I think it's lovely this time of year with some freakishly wonderful weather. Never thought I'd say that.
So you like rain?
I love rain. Oh yeah, no, the
very
rain
good,
you have here is very soft. It's very nice.
It's,
Gulf Coast rain is very bullet like bullets, but wetter. So I moved up here from Northwest Louisiana about 6 months ago, following my wife for work. I do constant contact solution provider. That's my specialty. Is what I do, and I've been in marketing and in business consulting for almost a decade now, which is really hard to say. It feels like yesterday, and I still feel like I don't know anything. But turns out I know a lot more than I think I do most of the time. And what I don't know, I've learned where to go to learn it. And I've been working with SCORE as a nonprofit mentor for on and off 3 years. I've got 2 lovely boys, and I'm working with you now.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So today's podcast is all about marketing for, I think we decided, for millennials.
For those millennials, lovely millennials. And let me get this out of the door first, because if we didn't lose half the audience just using that word. Millennials is a statistically usable term, but it has unfortunately been co-opted by the modern culture to mean I hate you.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because there's another podcast on millennials, and I love millennials.
Yeah,
and,
but millennials have money now. So.
Well, they have money, but they're also, much like the media today, have been derided as a bunch of snowflakes and candies and whatever other adjective you can throw at that. And my experience with millennials has been nothing but fantastic. And having hired and promoted one through the organization earlier this year, it's been great.
Yeah, the millennials are actually a lot of fun to work with. Myself being what we call like a grandfather millennial, I guess, because I'm 32, so I'm on the older end of the spectrum. My wife and I barely made the cutoff. We're like the starter point for the millennials, so we still remember dial-up internet, playing outside, that sort of stuff.
Oh.
But so the whole millennial thing was so used for so long to be a derogatory term. People would talk about it forever, and millennials took that to heart. It really hurt. We are a very emotionally intelligent demographic, so we're sensitive to things that our parents and our grandparents would have just sort of said, let it bounce off you, sort of thing, and we're responsive to that. On the flip side, millennials tend to be very, very, very efficient when it comes to marketing and being receptive to marketing, because we're so emotionally inclined and intellectually minded on doing stuff.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and again, I think what we're going to dispel is this is when we're marketing, it's most people, right? And yesterday I had a client come in, new client, and it was interesting. We're talking about his business, and he's like, I do X, and let's just for the sake of the argument say he does auditing. And I said, well, how does that go when you're out talking? Because what people don't realize is you're marketing all the time.
All the time.
And he's like, well, they all shut down. I said, so guess what word you'd never say again? Auditing, right? Because and how do you? So the conversation then went into what's the value you provide? Like, what are the problems that you solve? No one cares how you do it. They want to know why it's of value to them, what problems you're going to solve to them. And I think that kind of comes into concert with what we're talking about for these millennials of why do I want this? what value, what benefit, how does it make me feel good? Most buying decisions are made at at an emotional.
Yep. And
state.
here's something really fun. So pre-millennial, there's only one emotion that drove a marketing decision, a sales decision.
Now he's in my generation.
Right, your
Yeah.
generation. There's only one emotion everyone focused on. That was fear. It scared you. So we say fear. That encompasses a lot of things, but we mean consider ads that you're going to read about in the newspaper or hear on a TV ad. Limited, buy now.
Oh yeah.
Going out of sale, limited inventory. Get yours here. The whole Black Friday sales thing, right, is about getting in the door to get that one item that's at 90% off.
Well, yeah, and my mind just went to the news, right?
Yeah.
Listen to any news, and I don't care which one it is. It's all fear.
Yeah,
and it's all tailored to that Gen X and above mentality, and
it's very true. And because we remember scary things. I mean, there's a very good reason why marketing,
Cold War,
pre-Cold War, forever.
Chernobyl,
in
TMI. Scary things.
Because we remember scary things. If it was happy, we don't need to remember it because it was a good thing. It'll happen again. But if it's scary, I want to remember that. Like, don't eat this berry, eat that berry.
Tarantulas.
Yeah, this
cobras.
Yeah,
whatever.
There
scary
you go.
things.
Scary things. And so fear is what gets people to act if you need them to do a thing. You're trying to force people to do a thing, scare them, and they'll do it. This is in everything, politics, marketing, interpersonal relationships. We see it all the time. Now, what's really interesting is that with the rise of the internet, the follow on social media, and the accompanying generation, millennials and younger, there's a new emotion, another emotion that comes into the equation that never existed before or never really mattered before.
Entitlement?
Hey, that's that I hate you language again.
We just had a great rousing conversation about how people hide their true feelings in emails from the I hate you language in very long emails. So anyway,
in very long, yes,
that was passive aggressive right there.
So the other emotion is hope.
Oh, hope, yeah.
So there was recently an election, not Trump, but the one before. The entire presidential election was based on one concept: no information whatsoever. No facts, no reality, just hope. And that got him elected because he appealed to this millennial generation, right?
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So think of Barack Obama's entire campaign, both times. 0 facts, all promises based on hope. That's it.
Well,
hope.
that was, I'm trying to think, not to get political, but that was his slogan, right?
Hope and change was his slogan.
Hope and change. That's it.
Hope and change.
Yeah.
And the hope was that things would change for the better.
Right.
But that was not.
We used to have a.
They stopped before that.
When I was in my consulting days, well, I guess I'm still in my consulting days, but when I worked, we always had a saying that hope was a bad strategy, right?
Hope is a terrible strategy. Yes, hope should not be a strategy.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the emotions that drive strategies, not
yeah.
necessarily a strategy in of itself.
I just remember like when the VPs would get up and we'd all be sitting there and the president, it's like, all right, hope this and, hope. And we would all roll our eyes and be like, yeah, because it's us grunts that are going to get it done,
Yeah.
So
anyway. when it comes to the overall strategy, hope is a terrible strategy. Yeah. You should not. There's that only happens in fairy tales, and there's a reason they're called fairy tales because they don't really exist. They're just meant to tell a story.
Don't tell my daughter that.
Don't tell your daughter that. Hey, do you read the Grimm's fairy tales or the American fairy tales?
I don't know.
Because my boys grew up on Grimm's fairy tales, and man, let me tell you, those are vicious.
They're a little dark.
Yeah, those are the ones where everyone dies in the end. And like mothers eat their children and children murder their stepmothers.
It's the opposite of Disney, where they just kill off the main character at the beginning of every fairy tale.
Yeah, there you go.
And anyway, we're digressing.
It's
So marketing,
George Martin.
Yeah. So
is
marketing.
Not the originator.
So marketing to millennials, like
so the emotion, the idea is that if you come to millennials, the millennial generation with a traditional mindset, and the problem is that the traditional mindset marketing is what you're probably going to call an intuitive mindset marketing. So when you think in terms of, well, I need to market to someone, and when you're writing the words, or you're taking the pictures, or you're drawing the graphics, that intuitive driver of understanding is going to be based on that fear-based promotional mindset. And when you're marketing to millennials, the important thing to consider is that millennials respond more strongly to hope as an emotional driver. So here's the difference, right? And why this is important is that if you have a TV ad, pre-internet, pre-social media, your only way to really market is with print, news, TV, radio. There's not a conversation; it's a monologue.
Right.
And so that's why that's why fear is the only emotion you really have. You're trying to get people to do a thing. And so you're going to tell them, come on now, because there's only one left, sort of a thing. Because you don't have a chance to have a conversation until they get in the store. which is where we get those mom and pop old world values of friendliness, customer service. That's where the hope used to live, was in the store.
Right.
Because
In
we
the
would have
conversation, in the
conversations.
engagement. Right.
And now, because of social media, we can have conversations with people. And so you need to be designing your content with those conversations in mind, not just the message to the ears, but then their mouth back to you. And so back and forth, and what we term engagement, is what causes this sort of thing to happen. And what drives positive engagement isn't fear. That's what drives mobs to go tear down statues, or hate groups to come find you on the internet. You always hear about some new celebrity 2 or 3 times a week has to go delete their Twitter profile because they said something wrong, that made people angry.
That I just find
that's another segment of the culture.
On that path, maybe
not down that path. What the point I'm pointing out there is
all I'm going to say on that point is that had 90% of the crap that comes out of my mouth would get me banned on Twitter.
Pretty fast.
Because it's funny.
But But just to elaborate on the point, that is actually most people. Most people are like that. And the thing is, we have a terrible censorship going on, and I'm really hoping that by encouraging entrepreneurial millennials to come forward and do their business, because the lovely part about business is that it doesn't care about any of that, and that it really pushes things away that don't make sense. And so you can get into groups of people who feel they don't have power and introduce them to the concept of entrepreneurship, help them to grow their business, and then become prosperous, and then realize that America is for them. And this whole idea that it's not for them and is a whole lot of malarkey. And at the end of the day, the reason that everyone gets so mad at words and such things is because that's all people have. That's all their experiences in words.
I'm agreeing with you, but I also think like these people that all they do is troll on Twitter and Facebook and social media should start a business and get a passion that matters.
Give them something to do.
Yeah, I'm just saying. It could be a whole new crop of entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Oh, there are. Yes, there are. Yes. In fact, the generation following the millennials are incredibly entrepreneurship. I was looking at these numbers the other day. 70 to 80% of this upcoming generation want to be business owners or self-employed in some manner. That's an attractive idea to this generation.
Well, it is, and I think it's attractive
across the board.
And I think one of the things, and we were talking about this earlier, is the fact that a lot of reasons why Gen Xers, why you're seeing that trend shift, is because we were all trained to go work for somebody because you need security, right? And it's get a job because out of fear, And so to prove your hypothesis that hey, the millennials and subsequent generations are built on hope, well, you start to see that because now they're no longer wed to a paycheck.
Yeah,
and the fears eroding away, and they're like, let me go look at what opportunity is. Let me go look at the abundance that's out there and how to live my life and enjoy it. And it's a beautiful thing.
An abundance mindset is a millennial concept. It's an old world concept.
And you can see that in another podcast.
Links below.
Yeah, links below. Links below. Abundance mindset. Love it.
An abundance mindset is a very popular entrepreneurial millennial thing. But anyway, a lot of people, all they have experience with is their words, and they're just, if you can give them a path to self-ownership, self-empowerment through money, not through someone else. Because imagine if let's not go there, but giving people who feel like they don't have a shot through entrepreneurship, which anyone can do from anywhere at any time, and it has a real impact, is just incredible, especially for the millennials. So marketing to them, back to the topic at hand here, is based on that idea of positiveness, of growth, of you can do itness, and providing them with answers, providing them with good information. And marketing to millennials is actually really, really straightforward, okay? You just have to be honest. And the thing is that sounds easy until you actually try it.
So what are you saying? We're all pathological liars?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, the human race is built on lies. Psychologically speaking, as part of a group dynamic, you will lie all the time. Little lies, little white lies that sort of move things to make you feel better because you want to belong to the group, right? But millennials actually respond really well to two things. And one is blatant honesty, truth, factual truth. They do respond well. But the other thing is answers. And so the most popular marketing tactic today, particularly when focusing on millennials, is not to put a big shiny picture of your product, like say your car on the road or something like that.
Mhm.
And I'm just using car examples because they're easy they're very familiar. Everyone should know what that looks like or sounds like. And what millennials respond better to is tell me about your product and tell me about how you came to the decision to make it look this way. Uh, what do I- the millennial mindset responds very strongly to giving them a very very positive feedback, very good answers. And so in your marketing material, it should feel that way. That if you own a bakery, right? The most popular channels on YouTube, for instance, are going to be how-to channels,
Mhm.
right? So if you own a bakery, your marketing content shouldn't just be about the cookies that are for sale. It should be how did I make the cookies? It should be how can you make
Y-
these cookies at home?
Well, it's
Sort of a thing.
yeah, and it's interesting. I think when we look at marketing for small businesses, and this is what we've done here, it's create valuable content that's engaging. Like
Yeah, about
those are the two components. Because if you can build your tribe around education, for lack of a better term, and show them how to do that, how to learn more about a community, do these things fitness wise or whatever, it comes all the way back to, oh, I didn't know that. Let's have a conversation. And I think the Facebook is great for that. It's one of the
Mhm.
few things I think Facebook's really good at, whereas the group component and the group think that's somewhat directed on getting really highly valuable content out there.
And that actually brings up our initial point when talking to millennials is that it's not about, I don't want to hear you tell me what you have that's valuable. I want to have the chance to talk back to you and ask you questions about your product, on where things come from, on what you did to make it,
Hmm.
how did it get here, what did it cost.
It's also interesting,
So,
and with one of our clients that because they're an old, then I guess they're Gen Xers, or I don't think they're baby boomers, but for them to make the shift in that mindset, right? So for everybody listening, when you think about this, the one question I ask is, there's a worksheet, but we walk through, how do you have the conversation with somebody, right? So if you're coming into a gym or the bakery, what's that conversation you're having when they're in the store?
yeah.
And then how do you have that conversation to get them in the store, right? It's the same conversation. And that's where leveraging social media becomes highly valuable, is because you can have that same conversation. But what I find is that people just automatically switch when they're not in the store. I'm going to talk at them, not to them.
Exactly.
And when you make that switch as a business owner to say, like, oh, let me talk with you, to you, and provide you valuable information, then all of a sudden the business starts to take off,
Mhm.
and people start to come through that door. So for the people listening, that's a huge mental shift for the business owners to say, how do I talk to them, not at them?
So I wanted to I know I can feel it through the force, through time and space. There's someone out there listening going, this is a load of BS, bunch of crap. No, it doesn't work. So for that person and for that maybe nagging voice in the back of your mind, let me tell you why this works. Okay. So the world of marketing lives by the concept of a funnel. And if you want to think of a funnel, it's wide on top, narrow in the bottom. And if you're going to buy TV ad, if you ever have had the opportunity, or if you have not, the way it works is you go in there or you meet their salesperson at a networking event. And then the first thing they're going to tell you is how big their listening audience is, how many readers they have.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that's valuable is because that's the top of the funnel. And so if there's 100,000 persons who are going to potentially see this message,
Like this podcast.
and it filters down to maybe a few hundred who end up buying your product, that's called a conversion ratio. And then you can understand the steps. So if someone sees the ad, are they going to go to your website? If someone goes to your website, are they going to click on a product? If someone clicks on the product, how many are going to buy the product?
Mm-hmm.
So each of those steps, you lose people along the way, but it's a conversion percentage. And eventually you get to the number of people sold.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your sales funnel. And this was the only way that people used to market forever. Again, back in ye olde
Right. Yep.
pre-social media days. Now, a fun part about social media is that it flips that funnel. So statistically speaking, there's no magic at work here. The same business functions that made buying an ad on a TV studio valuable are the same business functions that make having conversations on Facebook and Twitter valuable. But the difference is that the funnel gets flipped on its head. And so we're going to start with this narrow group of people who are actively listening to us, which is where we're providing that education. We're providing the people who really care the knowledge on how we got our product to market, what it's made out of, what we do, how we got here, our story, the process we go through to sell our things, the process we go through to make sure our employees are happy. All that kind of stuff is content that people want to engage with, have conversations with. And because social media is an interconnected web of individuals, when one person starts being very active in these conversations, those few number of people have an exponential reach. It goes out back to a wider base. And so we call that a viral piece of content, right? It spreads and spreads and spreads. Now, there are some negative connotations with content going viral. However, the idea there is that a few people can spread your message to a whole lot of people once it starts rolling. And then you have the top of your funnel again, which goes back down through your sales process. And so all of this stuff we're talking about here is just understanding the logic that is, it's the same logic that's always been in place. You have 100,000 people that filter down to a few sales. Those few sales are devoted, also happen to be your most devoted fans, loyal fans that you educate on the product. And then they go and they talk to their friends. And that's that word of mouth concept, the back and forth. However, so this is why millennial marketing, social marketing is so important. With the word of mouth, plus the internet, we can now track things. We can understand those metrics, and we can see what matters and what doesn't matter. And if we understand what matters and what doesn't matter, we can cut out the part of the marketing budget that was paying for things that didn't convert to sales, and we can focus on the segments of the market that do convert to sales.
And it's always amazing to me that people don't measure things.
I know. And even today,
$1
million industry market leaders in a particular region, now not nationally, but regionally, like in a city or a county, man, I am just blown away by the kinds of huge businesses that just do not know who their audience is.
Yeah, it's small, big, large, it doesn't matter. I mean, these people,
but I would expect a small business to not know that.
Kinda, but so there's a fundamental concept that I have with any business is the return on investment.
Yeah.
So if you're going to spend $1, what are you going to get for that dollar? Whether it's out of space for your bakery or if it's, for a marketing budget or whatever. And everybody that I've talked to or worked with has never looked at measuring the results of their efforts.
Now, I heard it put this way when we talk about ROI and social media. So what is the ROI of a piano to you? Zero. Like -0 because it's cost you money to get the piano.
And it would take up space in my house.
Take up space. What is the ROI of a piano to Elton John? Millions and millions
of dollars.
Gazillions of dollars, right? And so it's not about the tool. It's about how you use it.
Well, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And I'm not saying you have to be like Elton John, all-star, social media god or goddess to make this work for you. You just have to understand that social media is very good at giving you back what you put into it. And it can give you nothing, or it can give you the world. And
it's funny, right? Because I was talking to this guy yesterday or the other day, and he's going through and he spent tens of thousands of dollars on social media marketing.
Yeah,
I mean programs, and some of them are good, some of them are bad, and it was interesting because he's like nothing works. And in 30 seconds, I said, well, maybe 2 minutes, but tell me about your business. And he's like, there's this. And I said, I know why none of this stuff worked. And he's like, why is that? And I'm like, because you're not providing any value. I'm not saying you don't have value.
Oh, yeah.
That's two totally different things. And I said, but in these tools, you're all about how, and you're not getting to what's the value for me, the consumer.
Yep.
And until you do that, then nothing is going to work. So
it's just it's a loop, right? I mean, and that's that mindset again, the Gen X mindset that I'm going to talk at my audience and expect them to respond. And that the result is inverse on social media. That if you're just talking at people, they ignore you. Yeah. And Facebook, Google, the internet at large needs that engagement. So if you're not getting that engagement, they will put you in the timeout corner.
Yeah, and that's why when we talk about all of the tools and all of the programs, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, it doesn't matter unless you're providing that value and engagement through those tools. Don't
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 do
waste
it.
your time.
Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah,
It's actually very so marketing to millennials carries with it, I guess, more risk than marketing to previous generations did as well. Because if you're going to talk to millennials and you're not providing that value, they'll shut you out.
Well, there's another fundamental thing that I'm seeing when we do this is that everybody wants to be engaged, right? So when we say millennials, when we found, we did this for a variety of companies, older generations, and realty groups and things like that. That it was actually everybody embraced that. Oh, you're talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Like, oh, yeah. No, I have an opinion on that. Oh, I have. And again, I think there's a lower barrier of entry for the millennials talking about in that direct engagement. I think when you get to the Gen Xers and baby boomers, they sit back and they wait. Well, yeah, let me get in there. But once that ball gets rolling, it steamrolls.
Yep.
So,
And some things that I like to recommend to people. So there's something I've encountered a lot in my 10 years of doing this, and people who are on the internet all the time and they're not getting results get frustrated. And what I tell people when they ask me how can I market, why isn't my social media working, is that your emotional state, your mindset comes across when you're making posts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you're frustrated and you're writing posts trying to market about your business, talk about your business, it's going to come from a frustrated point of view. And people pick up on that. And so that's going to be the intent that comes across. That emotion is going to come across. Remember, millennials are very sensitive, receptive to all kinds of different emotions.
Yeah,
And
they're more aware of that receptiveness.
Yes.
And I think, the mindset is huge, and I can't stress that enough.
It's actually
it is the key to successful business.
it is mindset, and it matters because it influences all the little details throughout your day.
Well, and if you look at that, the subconscious picks up on all of that, which is hugely has more capacity than the cognitive side of your brain.
Yep.
So it's I don't know. It frustrates me when people come in. Oh well, I'm down. I call them the Eeyores. Oh well, it's gonna rain today.
Which, pro tip, if you are an Eeyore, you need to recognize that you are an Eeyore. Don't do social media. Go hire someone to do social media.
Yeah.
You are not the person who should be writing the content for your company. Now, that being said, maybe there's a particular audience in the early days, and you're the only one, a solopreneur or something like that. I heard it called today. If you're the only one in your company, the first thing you should try to do is make enough money to hire the person to help you. So it is very now. Here's the part that is key advice. Everyone needs to know that you should not be a solo flyer. You should only fly solo for the shortest amount of time you can afford to do so. And as soon as you can, you should start paying people to take on tasks that you're just not good at.
I agree.
But that's hard for me to say because I'm the guy who benefits from that mindset. Because I'm the guy who provides the services. Like you would hire me or you would hire Tim here to take on some of the responsibilities of management or marketing.
Well, but that's the ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
The fundamental concept of this is do what you're good at.
Yes, and
Period.
do more what you're good at and pay people to do what you're bad at.
And again, in our society, we've been programmed that we have to do it all. Right through school. Oh, you suck at math, like then you got to work harder at math. You suck at English and the language arts, then you gotta focus more time on that. Well, what if you're good at math and you suck at everything else, that you focus all your energy on math and become this freaking amazing mathematician, Einstein level type brain, and I think that's something that is starting to change as well. Do what you're good at.
Do what you're good at.
And then, because there's a lot of things I suck at. I don't do.
And this is actually where that abundance mindset comes into play as well, because it's very easy to try things and then you're not getting results right away. It takes a lot of faith to believe the money's out there, and I have seen the most ridiculous profits come out of the weirdest niches that you just don't think there's a market at all.
Yeah.
Like someone will come to you and say, I want to sell sunglasses that have one lens in them. And you go, that's dumb. Why would you sell? Because I only want to sell to people with the right eye or one eye. That's it. And you would go, well, how many people are in York, Pennsylvania that have just one? And let me tell you what, that person is going to own 100% of the market of people with one eye. and they're going
This
to
is
be
a horrible example, but I'm
No,
going with it.
It's a thing. It's a thing. It's a thing because you're catering to a really niche market.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah. And it's just I believe that you
Well,
and I have worked with people recently. We're telling them the same thing. They're trying to cater to the entirety of everyone who can buy their service, and we're trying to say, look, focus on a particular group of people with particular needs.
Well, everybody that I've worked with wants to be all things to all people.
Yeah.
And the number one thing we do is get them focused. What do you love to do? What are you really good at doing? You can draw a Venn diagram and like it's that overlap. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because then all the subconscious things, I love it. It's good. I'm upbeat and I'm passionate about it, and things move on. And the guy that came in yesterday, God love him, he's like, well, I do all these things. I'm like, no, you don't. Not if we're working together. And he's like, that's always a key word for me. But what if? And I'm like, all right, so you're looking at this negatively. Well, what if I'm missing deals over here? However, if you're doing shit you don't like to do, it means you're not getting the stuff you love and are really good at doing.
Yeah.
So which part of the abundance mindset do you want to be on? Go out and get what's yours. Just take it. It's there. It just drives me insane. And finally he's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, now you can work with me. Like that's the barrier to entry on it from a coaching perspective, from executives that, if they make that leap, you are now I can help you. But if you can't make that leap, and I've seen people not do it, no, I'm going to hang on to all things. There was a gentleman came in and he's IT guy. Well, I'm all things. I'm all IT to all people. I'm like, well, then you're nothing.
Yeah, then you're nothing.
But he could not make that leap. And I'm like, well, then I can't really help you because everything's based on focus, passion, and driving a singular message and being able to engage. How do you engage somebody if they're talking about routers and you're talking about app development?
Yeah.
You can't do it. And you can't fake it. You can't make that leap. I mean, I worked in a data center and I still don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not like, there's no passion, there's no drive there. And if you're just looking for money, on my soapbox, just looking for money, then you're not going to be in business very long.
No.
So,
and that's sort of the risky part. I think that's what people hate about millennials the most is that they can't, the genuineness of their motive, what drives them is what makes you successful. If you really are in business to provide a service to people, to sell a product that's good, it solves a problem, then you got no problem. But if you're just trying to make money and finding something that connects, I mean, I understand the need for money is a big driver, but if money is your end game,
get a job.
Yeah, get a job.
So
go work for somebody who understands the higher calling of why people spend their money on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things, because we're talking about the millennial crowd and reaching out to them, you might have a product. Say that there's a lot of food makers here, right?
There are
everywhere. You smell them,
cookies all over York County.
It is hard to stay thin, hard to not gain weight in York. It is hard.
Well, if you think it's hard here, go over to Lancaster County where all the smorgasbords are. Terrible. Yeah.
Smorgasbord for those people. I come from Louisiana, who we have never heard of the word smorgasbord before moving here. So that is a buffet.
No, it's not a buffet. It is the buffet of the worst, best food you'll ever have. You only ever really need to do it once.
Yeah, just once.
It's
amazing.
It's family style. They put these big things down of gravy and roast beef and potatoes. And
it's like Thanksgiving every day.
Yeah, it's
worth it.
Yeah.
So, but what I was pointing at though is understanding the importance of the millennial generation has changed everything for everyone, and even if you have a product like a smorgasbord that everyone can come and buy, their marketing, the messaging is different depending on the kind of person you're talking to.
Yeah.
So
like if you're going to never mind, I'm not even going to go there.
So let's stay family friendly here, Tim. Family friendly podcast. So
don't. Okay.
So if you have this restaurant, right, and you're talking to millennials who have money, you need to talk in terms of them, the 30 years old, young families, focus on that. If you're talking to 40 to 50, 60-year-olds, that's married couples or adults with children who are now out of the home. You focus on that kind of imagery. And then you have retirees on one extreme and teenagers on the other. So these are all huge market segments and that are in every single market. And social media gives us the ability to develop ads targeted at these particular groups. You don't need just one ad. That's another holdover from TV and radio is that on TV and radio, you only have one spot on the TV program, right?
Yeah.
But on social media, you can literally, it's called a carousel. You can literally put 6 ads in one ad, and each of those ads pops up. It is corresponding to a particular kind of person. And what Facebook will do is take those ads and put the preferred ad in front of the preferred audience, and it'll do that on its own. But you got to give it the content.
Right.
So that's just sort of the importance of wanting to capture a particular market, especially the millennial market as they come into our own, I guess I should say, with wealth and politics and all these other things, is that you got to target the messaging, and you can't do that on with a traditional mindset. You can only do that with a more social mindset in terms of developing this content, putting it out there, targeting it. And so because you're creating more and more content, there's a flip side to this. So if you're going to create a TV, radio, or newspaper ad, it's got to be perfect.
Yeah.
It's got to be perfect because you got one shot. It's very expensive, and you don't have the ability to measure the results or make changes. Once it's on the air, it's on the air. It's gone. It's done. With social media, you can produce lower quality content more frequently and then make changes and adaptations as you go.
And the thing that I love about that is you can measure the success of it.
And then you can measure
like did it work, did it not? And
Yeah.
then you know where to dump everything into it. Yeah.
So then you can focus your marketing on what's working, and then spend money on better content, sort of a thing. So again, so just to recap, the focusing on the millennials thing, it's all about keeping your message positive, hope-based. So what about your product or service makes their life better? Not is your product and service in short supply, or is it needed to prevent some disaster in their life from happening? So what does it do to make their lives better? And then tell a story about yourself, provide the background information about yourself and your company. So people who want to find you can find you. That's how we like to work. And then make sure that you're connecting with those people online and having conversations. So make time in your day to go talk to people.
Right. It's the engagement. And if you can't find the time to be engaging on social media, don't do it.
Yeah. If you can't do it, don't do it. Hire someone to do it.
And there's like, whether you hire somebody, get an intern, there's a lot of avenues to fix the resource component of being engaging. So engagement is key.
I would like to point out though that because we keep saying that if you just really hate talking to people, don't be on social media.
Don't be in business.
Well, you can be in business.
No, I'm just
you can still be in business.
That's Tim being snarky.
Snarky Tim. So the traditional background business support of traditional word of mouth is still out there. It's much weaker than it used to be. We don't go to church as community anymore. We don't all go do the same holiday events together. It's more dangerous to be outside, as it were. Or maybe it's just the same and now we're more aware of the dangers. I don't know. But people don't communicate in person as much as they used to, but we still do. And so if you hate the internet and you hate the social medias and all that other stuff, it's okay to not use them. It's not required for your business. Your business will suffer growth loss and opportunity costs.
I think there's opportunity there, but you're bringing up a good point. There's other avenues. And
there are other avenues than social media.
And I think networking is another one. And even just we teach that, how to network in groups or one-on-one, it's the same thing. It is engagement. And how are you providing value to the person you're talking to? Like the concept is identical. Like, all right, so I'm talking to you on Facebook, and now I'm talking to you having a cup of coffee. Build that rapport, understand what their needs and issues are, and then discern whether or not you can help them or not with what you do, or give them other resources to help them with the problems that you can't help them with. And in that entire continuum, you're constantly adding value.
Just for a quick example, there's a client, a hopefully future client, I was meeting with the other day, and they do zero social media work. However, the content about them is very popular, and they get a lot of business from it, but they have no idea where it comes from. And when I looked up the details of it, what it was is that they're providing such a good, high quality service to this particular market that other people write about them all the time. And that is essentially their whole
gold.
That's gold. but they have no concept this is going on. They have no idea that this is happening. They have no idea why their business is growing. They just know, in their mind, we just provide a good service and people talk about us. But what's happening is people are going online. They're writing articles. They are the focus of conversations happening around them, and they're completely oblivious to them. But they're observable. If you go and do the proper Google searches, you can find these things.
So to wrap up today,
Yeah.
Andrew, what do you think the three major takeaways for marketing is to millennials, as the title says? What would you have your typical business focus on?
You got to think in terms of positive emotions, because millennials are that emotional generation, for good or for better, for worse. You got to think happy. Happy thoughts are what drives positive actions like them buying your product and service. Secondly, that initial engagement, that initial experience has to be followed up with conversations. If you don't have the infrastructure or the awareness about yourself to find conversations going on about you, which is very easy. Facebook makes it a really big red number on your page whenever people are commenting on it. If you don't have the time, it's very risky for you to be on the internet because people are feeling like they're ignored. That's a negative emotion. So you want to make sure you're making the time in your day to have these conversations, because it is vitally important for your business to succeed with the millennial generation. And finally, you need to be producing the right kinds of content, which are going to be based on the kinds of feedback you get, which come from producing the right kinds of content. So just get started posting stuff and figure out and measure it, so that you can figure out what's going to work for your particular audience to drive your business sales up, so that you don't have to be so stressed out all the time, so that you can produce better content and drive your business sales up. Positive feedback loop. So,
Andrew, I just want to thank you for taking the time to come in today. This was great. We should do this again. I think we will.
Absolutely. All right. Well, everyone, thank you all for listening in. My name has been Andrew.
I'm Tim, and this has been the 5 Squared Podcast. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for listening to the show with your host, Tim Fives. We hope you will pass along our web address, 5squared.com, to your friends and colleagues. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at 5squared, or follow us on Facebook. This has been a 5 Squared production. Join us next time for another edition of the 5 Squared Podcast.